welcome to Nerd Variety Podcast. I am Josh Davies. I'm joined today by Hunter Running Man Rafferty.
Hey. You can't see my hand, but hey.
Whoa, tribute man. And we're also joined by Hannah Tree Hugger Hogan.
That is surprisingly accurate, actually.
Yeah,
Stop hugging trees, Hannah.
I love trees.
You're such a hippie.
I just like trees.
You can
honestly,
tell just by looking at you, you look like a tree hugger.
I mean, really, look at where you are.
Yeah, right? You're in I don't know, an elven rim.
This is what I hope happens to every city. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa, all right.
It's terrible.
Nature needs survival.
Okay.
Nature will reign. Thank you all for joining us today. Today we're talking about neuroscience, and specifically the mind science, as Hunter described it, that you see in her favorite. Yeah.
It helped Hannah understand it.
Yeah. Now she gets it.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of this.
It was in the text message.
The group text, yeah. We talked about this.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, specifically the mind science that you see in our favorite movies, TV shows, etc., yada yada. So yeah, and neuroscience is kind of a broad term, and it relates to, it's the study of how behavior relates to the brain. And for a long time, the brain's been a really mysterious organ that we really didn't know what it was for, what all it does. But it's the center of control of the body. It's where everything kind of answers, everything kind of flows through, and the body answers to. And when you mess with it, you get some pretty crazy things that happen. So yeah.
Mute. Oh wait.
Yeah, such a nerd. Oh
gosh.
Look what I'm doing.
Jeez. I know what you my guys meant. I just was confused about like the connections between neuroscience and media, right?
Right.
I was like, I'm confused, and you guys are like, let me explain to you what neuroscience is. Let me explain to you the General Assassin's Creed plotline. I'm like, no, I understand these things. What I don't understand is what we're talking about.
There's a thread to it, so it's just like, what do you see in?
Where are the connections?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and topics like, there are diseases like PTSD and like memory problems, and where you see like things where people are super smart, and or you see things where people get these super drugs, and or they are in these dream states.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, what I think is interesting about that is I feel like when you're going through that list, I'm coming up with a lot of ideas, but none of them feel like they fit into the category of like this sci-fi fantasy vibe that we've had going on in most of our previous discussions. Like, I feel like my brain goes to a lot of like dramas.
Yeah. I mean, your soap operas love to give someone amnesia for.
You haven't watched Korean dramas. You know nothing about giving people amnesia.
What kind of amnesia are we talking about here?
I don't know. All the kinds of amnesia. All of it, always. Yeah.
Do any of them have like 30-second memories, or like you talking 50 first dates memories?
Yeah, I feel like 50 first dates kind of stuff. Yeah.
Ugh.
Or like, oh, so and so is in a car accident and they forgot everyone, and I feel like there's the storyline of like, you have to make her fall in love with you all over again, but
make him remember who he truly is.
Right. Yeah. All that sort of stuff.
Well,
who you are.
Okay. Well, I have one that I want to bring up as a somewhat recent, very good case of this, I think, in video games.
Okay.
So I don't know if either of you are familiar with the game. What year did it come out? It doesn't really matter, but it was like 2017 when it first released. So about 2 years ago. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I don't know if you've heard about it or anything.
No.
It's a really cool game for a lot of reasons, I think. First of all, it's actually pretty short, and it's a single player experience, and it's pretty linear, which a lot of games these days, they don't want to touch that kind of stuff. But I think there's still a demand for that kind of game, and they're still good.
Well,
But the game, it follows. Well, it's set in. I don't know if there's a specific era it's supposed to be, but it's like it's inspired by Norse mythology and Celtic culture. So there's Senua, who's the main character. She has what is it? She has a psychosis. She struggles with psychosis.
She's crazy.
Yeah, basically. And like she carries around, she ventures into Helheim with the head of like her husband or fiance or something to try to go and find like his soul or whatever to bring him back. It's weird. And like the whole time you're hearing these voices that she's supposed to be hearing, and like it's best they recommend like playing with headphones, and it is really good because you can hear these voices like all around you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, they're all sorts of things. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes, you know, they're kind of like, you notice something, they're like, hey, what's that over there? Oh, did you see that? And then sometimes, a lot of times, probably more than anything else, they're very negative, and you know, just kind of, they keep telling you like, you can't do this, or this is too tough for you, or there's a cat on Hannah's lap. Oh, they don't say that one, but oh gosh.
Tail.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting, and you know, like she sees there's kind of a puzzle aspect to it occasionally as well, and you kind of start seeing these shapes that you have to line up in certain positions, and just to move forward in certain parts. And again, there's a lot to it. There's this whole section where you're so okay. Sorry, one of the big things is also they hyped up this idea of like a permadeath situation. So, you know, you die like once, and then you like, she comes back and she sees like this black scar type thing, I don't really know what to call it, on her hand. And then the more she dies, they tell you it's going to get further and further along her arm and eventually engulf her. And once you die, like, I feel like they say like 3 times, then you're dead for good. And, you know, if you want to play again, you have to start the game over. There's actually no such mechanic in the game, but I think that's the point of it, is that, Hannah, cats are not invited. Actually, they're always invited. But it's interesting because, you know, it kind of gives you that feeling of, oh God, if I mess up too much, then there are serious consequences, and it kind of, you know, freaks you out and makes you really paranoid about everything. And it also, to me, it helps that they, from a gameplay perspective, it kind of helps that they don't tell you how to play. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you, there's no tutorial or anything. They don't give you button prompts. Eventually they just kind of put you in a fight, and you just have an enemy coming at you, and you're like, wait, I press buttons to do this, to fight? And yeah, the good thing is it's pretty natural controls if you're used to these kinds of games. It's, you know, square I played it on PS4 because that's where it originally launched. So like square for light attack, triangle for heavy attack, circle for dodge, that kind of stuff.
So you get a feeling that you're actually playing as someone with, sounds like she's got some kind of schizophrenia or something like that, and you're just kind of trying to complete your task, but you're also you're in the thick of it, and you're kind of,
it actually,
your reality is kind of off.
From the sound of it, it actually reminds me a lot of another game we've talked about, which is the What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah.
Where you're like playing through like kind of the mindsets of these different people from your family, and like understanding kind of all of their various problems, which is a really interesting way of like kind of looking at all the things that they were dealing with.
I mean, obviously from a gameplay perspective, it's totally different, but yeah,
sure.
I see what you mean. And actually that's one that for some reason I didn't think of that I think works well with this. Okay.
Mhm.
And one thing that I thought was interesting about this game too was they worked here. This is the Wikipedia page. It says to properly represent psychosis, the developers worked closely with neuroscientists, mental health specialists, and people suffering from the condition.
Oh, that's cool.
So they really put in the work and the effort,
did their homework,
research, and everything to make sure they got an authentic experience.
I feel like people have been doing that a lot recently. I watch a somewhat embarrassing amount of gaming videos on YouTube, and I've seen a lot of different stuff about games trying to emulate what it's like to be in those situations.
Yeah.
So I saw recently there's like a new Blair Witch game or something, and you have a
haven't
dog,
done
and if the dog gets too far away from you, your character, I guess, has some PTSD, and like your vision starts blurring, and you like start hyperventilating and all this stuff, and you find the dog, and you're like,
everything kind of starts.
it's fine.
Everything starts centering back the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool.
I think I've seen a lot of stuff like that, and not always is it even in like a bigger scheme of a game, right? So I've seen games where like that's the only thing is you're wandering around this field and everything starts to lose color and like starts looking really creepy, and it's supposed to emulate for people who don't understand what it's like to have depression or PTSD or whatever,
or anxiety, or just have trouble with like experience hallucination when they're awake. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And actually, that does.
I've seen too many TV shows where they don't portray that accurately enough. Like you have the badass soldier in every movie, TV show. He's sleeping in his bed and he has a flashback to the war or the trauma time, and then he wakes up with his gun pointed at somebody, and he's like, where are they? So
I think it's something that
they somehow get over it as the episode goes on, which is it's not really accurate, but they are trying to.
I mean, I do think it's something that is tougher to portray in a film, in video than through a video game. Because with a video game, to me that's like the perfect medium to do that through, because you have, as the player, sorry, I couldn't think of the word. As the player, you're actually, taking place in this world. You're taking over the place of this person, and they're really trying to make you.
Well, and one of the things that I thought about that I don't even know if it does it on purpose, but I've played through the Batman Telltale games, and one of the things I remember most specifically from those games was how stressed I was all of the time, because you're put in the situation of Batman, and like none of the decisions are good decisions. Right? Like no matter what you do, you're like, this all sucks.
That's a lot of Telltale games.
That's every Telltale game. That's why I don't like Telltale games, because they make me anxious.
That's why I love Telltale games.
Same, honestly.
And
Walking Dead.
I felt it especially with the Batman games, though, for some reason.
I may be wrong about this, but I feel like I read somewhat recently that they're back in business or something.
I don't know. Topic for another day.
I mean, I'm just excited to see The Wolf Among Us 2 come out. Season 2 come out again.
Yeah, but just, I mean, I'm when you talk about a video game being a really special medium for you to talk about stuff like that and talk about, different disorders and stuff like that, it's because it's so personal and you have to like be involved in it, where it's much easier to detach from a TV show or movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like the combination of video games becoming really beautiful and really just kind of everywhere, paired with the fact that we are kind of as a society going through all this stuff where we're becoming more okay with talking about mental illness, you're seeing a lot of really cool stuff come out of the combination of those two things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Did I just say everything perfectly? Are we done?
Hold on.
Oh, no. I was. But yeah, you see a lot of that. I guess the realness coming out, and but you also get some really interesting stories when you start thinking about like, how, like, I guess you look at PTSD, and when a lot of shows will do things in like a linear way and try to resolve a story, you get some interesting things like the show Red vs. Blue. How in the show, like I think that they give a character dissociative identity disorder by giving him, like, traumatizing him, and and the base character is the memory, and and Church is still living with all that trauma and that anger, and he doesn't know why, but and his memory is fragmented. So sci-fi stuff like that is a really interesting way of like talking about like how they all relate to each other, like trauma leads to certain disorders.
Well, and I think another new sort of thing is this a going away from the idea of having like a token disabled character. Right?
Yeah.
And then that goes for all representation, right? Like we've always had, like the one female that has to be in this guy movie just so we have a female, and then the gay friend, and like all of this stuff. And I feel like we're finally getting to a place where we just have people who like have some issues they got to deal with, or they're gay, or they're this, or they're that, or whatever.
I think we're getting closer to that, and it's good to.
For sure.
It's definitely, I think, good to have more than one character with a certain, any kind of identity, because usually what happens if you have one like token character, then what happens with that character is they get all the stereotypes on them right there. And they're not.
Well, and you're not showing that like people are complex, right? When you have like a character that's like, oh yeah, that's the PTSD character. It's like, no, like no one's that simple, right?
Just to very complex.
And I just wanted to kind of bring this up, just made me think of it. When I was at DragonCon, someone talked about this, like with non-binary people. This is a thing that, I had been excited when I had heard that Flack in Borderlands 3 is non-binary. But then the more I thought about it, and then someone brought up this point, I'm like, yeah, it's like, make your non-binary characters like people. Like, stop making them robots or aliens or something. It's like, that is a very fair point, because Flack, as much as I like him, he's them, I guess, just talking about that. They're a robot.
Yeah.
So
I actually, my day job is doing math tutoring with elementary students, and we go through like this kind of D&D style story with them, and they pick characters, and we actually have two of the characters who are just an elf and a fox, and they don't really have a gender. So like even 8-year-olds, if they're like, yeah, I don't really like this girl in the dress or the guy, I can just be a fox. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that kind of stuff is happening is really cool.
Yeah.
But not totally what we're talking about.
Well, everybody's brain is different, so you're going to have people that express themselves differently, or different traits come out, and you're not going to, even twins are not going to be the exact same person.
Oh, definitely. A couple of my cousins are twins, and I definitely know that for sure.
Yeah, you learn pretty quick. They will let you know. Yeah. So I'm trying to think back to like some older forms of media that specifically I remember having sort of those token disabled characters, or
this is what
mentally ill characters. I don't know. I'm just trying to think if I can think of anything specific.
Or just maybe I think about more psychology, things like psychological like topics that are touched on like older like shows.
Right.
Anything like that?
In older shows?
Do they the episode where they go into this person's mind and stuff like that?
Well, sure, that happened in a few things. Hannah, I'm sorry, you look like you have something to say?
No, it's just my sister and I asked her this question earlier, and we spent probably a good half hour looking back through Star Trek episodes, trying to find something, because we're like, we know it's there, we just don't know where, or like what specifically we're looking for.
Yeah.
But I feel like in sci-fi especially, you see a lot of, diving into people's psyches, and either literally or sort of figuratively.
Looking at Inception.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very sci-fi topic.
Yeah.
And
looking at people's psyches, think about the episode of Teen Titans, Nevermore.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah,
I didn't
they
think
go into
about that.
Serena's mind and they get more than they bargained for because she's kind of her emotions are all kind of sprung out.
It's very
and
complex.
they have to kind of work together to beat her anger.
Well, and that was one of the best things about that show was
Yeah,
how complex they made all the characters.
yeah. Even though it was a quote unquote kid show, they still had a lot of stuff they had to go through to figure out who they were and get over their humps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but Hunter, you mentioned Inception, and that was one that I had on my list.
Yeah,
but I've only seen it like once, so I know.
I think it's stupid and it doesn't make any sense.
It's not very. It's a
It
stretch.
makes no sense.
It's a stretch definitely when you're talking about dreams, because dreams are, that's asking that's assuming a lot that could happen in someone's mind. Like they can create all these like levels in their dreams, and they can control dreams, which you could to a degree, but
yeah, you can. It's not going to be physical.
No, it's not going to be
You're not going to ever be at risk of dying in a dream in real life.
The most that can happen is you may be able to change, I guess, push a thought away or make yourself wake up. Besides other this, and I don't know if you can actually like go into someone's mind and trick them into revealing their deepest, darkest secrets.
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I think it'd be more realistic. First of all, ignoring the whole going into somebody else's dream crap. Like I think in a dream, somebody would have a very different idea what their secrets are. Like their secret might be something totally different from what it actually is.
I was admitted that I was 14 or whatever. Yeah, more personal secrets than like government secrets, hypothetically.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were looking for, but
they were looking for something to convince him to give up the company, to not follow in his father's footsteps, basically. But still, I think that's too. I don't know. I don't see that kind of thing as being what someone would have going on in their mind in a dream.
That sounds like more of a like you get someone in therapy, and then you maybe give them some drugs while you're kind of guiding them through like a trip or something like that.
I was gonna say put them in a simulation of some kind. Because I mean, how much control did they have in the dreams?
They all had like total control of everything that was happening.
They can summon grenade launchers and control weather and all that.
Which is ridiculous too to me, because it's like, okay, if you can do all of this, why aren't you using like telekinetic powers to just like destroy
or just mind control the guy in the daytime?
Yeah, or
because it doesn't work. That stuff doesn't work while
whatever.
It's not supposed to work because you're awake. Like, what are you doing to me? Like, why are you hooking me up to this machine? Why get this off me? Get out of my head. Or if you use telekinesis in your dream, they'll be like, this is insane. I must be dreaming. Wake up.
Well, okay, I'm sorry, but how often in a dream have you done something ridiculous and totally gone along with it because you're in a dream and you don't know that you're in a dream?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of times I realize, this is a dream. I need to wake up.
Do you do that always, though?
No, I do not. But it has happened.
I don't know if that's ever happened to me. I'm always like, all right. Okay.
Yeah, like you don't notice it like at least for a good while in the dream. You might realize it later if you do realize it.
Yeah.
Once you wake up, you definitely realize it.
Yeah. I think another good example of not realizing you're in a dream the whole time is Alice in Wonderland, because all the crazy, trippy stuff that happened in Wonderland, honey, wake up, you were sleeping.
Hey, she wasn't sleeping. She was in a drug trip.
I guess who is that lady with her? Is that her
sister?
Aunt?
I don't remember.
It was, okay.
Her sister.
Yeah, she gave a little, spiked her tea, her afternoon tea. Trippy tea time. What about Hannah.
I was just gonna mention something that Hunter mentioned very briefly, which is the overarching idea in things where you're like diving into a mental thing, or you're in a simulation, or you're in a dream, or whatever. The whole like you die in the simulation, you die in reality kind of thing.
Yeah.
Man.
It's really interesting to me how prevalent that is. And like I understand that just in terms of a plot point, it just raises the stakes.
Yeah.
But you
Okay,
see it like
Yeah.
everywhere.
You do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, to me, it makes me think of their explanation of time travel in Endgame. It's like, I don't know why everybody believes that, but it's not true. So Back to the Future is a bunch of
Hmm
bullcrap.
Yeah. And the other like really prevalent psychological-ish thing that you see a ton is the idea of like switching brains or switching bodies with someone.
Yeah, Freaky Friday or
Yeah.
getting
Which
into
is
a
also
brain switch machine or something.
Makes me
it's
think of
just
Futurama. That's where I go.
it makes me think of a lot of things. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
happens in
just
Community.
yeah, and it's just like, why is this such an idea that we love, other than the fact that like, especially girls and guys switching is like a lot of awkwardness around that.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a really common plot that you see, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. It's a fun concept because, like, oh, I have to see life through this person's eyes, or they don't have it as good. It's more of them learning and getting some perspective.
So walking a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah, Teen Titans did it. That was a really good episode, actually.
What episode was that?
Stop
That
talking
was
about
the
Teen
one
Titans.
where Raven and Starfire switch bodies, and
yeah,
there's the Puppet Master.
Yeah, and they had to
Puppet
learn
King.
to control each other's powers. They just
Yeah.
have their own things. That brought them a good challenge.
I know a lot of Teen Titans stuff.
So I wanted to touch on, I don't know if you guys are done right now. I don't seem to care. I wanted to touch on Assassin's Creed because they definitely do a lot of this stuff. And while it's a little weird, their explanation is kind of thin.
It's a stretch, It's a stretch.
Their whole thing is they say, all right, there's something in everybody's DNA that you can access. You actually have your DNA contains memories of ancestors.
So it's like a very literal idea of genetic memory.
Genetics.
Because genetic memory is kind of a thing.
Yeah. We've learned over thousands and years about how to tell when an animal is dangerous, and that's expressed in or a plant is dangerous, and that's expressed in what we do nowadays with red and black, or the color red, or things that are brightly colored.
The most classic example.
Teaches those things.
The most classic example is, I think it's like monarch butterflies who do the same migration every year, but they're different butterflies every year. So like genetic memory is a thing, but not to the level that they talk about it in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. And I've been watching Venture Brothers, so of course Monarch Butterfly, I immediately go to that. I don't know if either of you have ever seen that, so whatever.
A little bit. I know what you mean. Yeah.
My friends are disappointed.
I am the monarch.
Yes.
You didn't put it on our list of classics. I haven't gotten around to it.
Don't get it started.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little weird. They put them in a machine, and the machine has changed so much over the years. And they put in the first one, like they put a visor over him in this machine, and it lets him kind of like see the memories of his ancestors. But it's also kind of like a dream sequence, like a lucid dream sequence, I guess, because he's actually like able to control, they're actually able to control the character in the past, their ancestor. And through that, like, you also see things with the machine. It's gameplay reasons, but you do something that's a little out of line with who the character is supposed to be. Like you start attacking random civilians, it'll say like you're getting close to desynchronizing with them because your ancestor didn't do this or something. And you can run around in circles for like 4 hours and then they won't say anything.
It is like kind of a weird like middle ground between a simulation and a dream state, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say. Yeah, and it's a bit weird, but I mean, I it works to a
science.
degree. Like, it's fun entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're
and it's
thinking
very
of,
similar to the Matrix, which I know we talked about briefly in our text messages.
Mm.
The idea of like, I guess it's like almost having being a different person in this simulation, right? I feel like it's in kind of the same ballpark, but a little bit more Inception-y.
Mhm.
Assassin's
Probably.
Creed is.
Probably. Although I don't even know. I might. That's even hard to say. I might say Matrix is more like Inception in that sense, but again, that is a little difficult to say.
A little more video game, VR, augmented reality, so to speak.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
have either of you seen Sword Art Online?
A
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
That's very Matrix-y in a way.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
You die in the game, you die in reality.
Yeah. But also, like in Assassin's Creed, not just, that the whole memory thing, but a little more, I guess you could say, again, still a stretch of realistic, but a little closer to the realistic part of genetic memory is the ancestors all pass on this trait of the eagle vision. And that's like, they explain it, I think, in the first one. I don't remember if they explain it really anywhere else. They might, but I can't remember for sure. All the ancestors have like this sixth sense, basically.
Yeah.
And it shows up, as like a video game mechanic, of course. But the reason for it is, or the in-game lore reason is that their sixth sense is kind of able to tell the kind of intentions of different people. Like they can kind of tell if someone has bad intentions, if they're going to be useful, or if they're a friend, that kind of thing.
I guess they're kind of like mentalist, where they can kind of read
I feel like the creators of the game wanted to tried to get as close to the this is just not believable line as they could without saying your specific family has superpowers.
Yeah, because there's a lot of mystical elements.
Yeah, and there's like this idea of like the lineage and all this stuff.
There is also the fact that they throw in the whole precursor race, the Isu, who like they had, they were the ones who came before. They were in the first civilization, and they had like their DNA was different. They had the triple helix, I think, something like that. And some of their DNA, I guess, I don't remember how, but I know they explain it in one of them. Like their DNA kind of ended up surviving through the humans, and it kind of went through there, which is why some people have
manifested.
Yeah, which is why some people have traces of it, and some people have more of that kind of.
So basically, they have superpowers.
Yeah, super senses.
Sure, it's not necessarily
super genetics.
It's not necessarily
whatever.
Super. It's just
Enhanced.
Different. It's just different.
Yeah.
I know you want to poke holes in this, Hannah, but I'm just telling you.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Kind of take this little toothpick here and just, But that you see that a lot in video games and certain movies, where you can enhance someone by enhancing, like going into their brain and changing something or changing a gene expression. I know for what was it? I think of it. There's the movies where you get super intelligence like Limitless or Lucy, both which love that whole 10% of you use only 10% of your brain myth, which I hope everybody knows is not true. You use all of your brain, just different parts working together.
You use all of your brain, but
90% of it might be automatic.
Some parts are used for other things.
You want to control like your heartbeat. I don't.
You actively use this much.
I don't want to automatically control my own heartbeat.
Yeah.
That
sounds a lot. That sounds a lot like Flowers for Algernon. which
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
what
if it's
that
a
is.
movie or I mean I think it's a book first and foremost. I don't know, you just mentioned like using genetics to get smarter. The premise is basically there's a guy who has some sort of mental disability,
Or
autism or
or
something like that.
super true.
Um and he goes in and like has a surgery that makes him like regular amounts of intelligent, but then he sort of regresses. It's a very, very
Yeah.
sad story, but it has a lot of like, it really makes you think about like all this sort of mental stuff. So if you're looking for a good
Yeah.
read and a good cry, Flowers for Algernon.
That actually kind of made me think of Rick and Morty, where he puts the
Which
seeds, the first one, where he puts the seeds up his butt, and then he's really smart
Yeah.
for a little bit, and then it starts to wear off, and then it's like, yeah, you're gonna
The side effects.
be really bad.
Yeah. That's why it's like, don't do Adderall, kids, or don't do meth, kids.
Yeah. Don't shove mega seeds up your butt. Way up in
Get
way up in
don't get
way
way
Yeah.
up in Morty.
This is
way
Don't
up.
why-
get addicted to a super drug and then drink the blood of the person who took it because you need more of it.
Yeah.
Have you not seen
Bad
that one,
stuff.
Hannah?
I have not watched Rick and Morty, and I'm starting to like really stand by my decision.
It's a terrible decision to not watch it.
I don't know.
It's an experience.
It is. It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having a different wonderful experience in a different TV show, so shut up.
Rude.
Yeah.
I'm having a great experience with Nerd Variety. You guys are a wonderful experience.
Josh
Oh,
is a
thank
wonderful
you.
experience.
Oh,
Hunter's
thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Hunter's pretty cool, I guess.
All right, I'm going to turn off my camera now.
No,
You're good.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, just talking about like, think about dreams, think about, substances that can enhance your intelligence, make you see the world, see faster, which isn't really true. It's just how you perceive. You just perceive information.
Yeah.
Faster in your
Different
head.
rates.
Yeah.
And of course,
futuristic
talking
stuff
about
too.
what?
Futuristic stuff too, like we were talking about changing, like I guess diving like gene things and how that can change how you that can mutate you into having super senses, or like in the future they'll probably be connected to AIs, so you can have like an AI and hear someone like Halo, hear
I feel like this all sounds like a very bad idea.
Yeah.
I
feel like
yeah.
we should probably just not mess with like directly tampering with human genetics that much.
Yeah. Too
Anyway.
late.
But science.
Anyways, actually, one thing that really quick I was thinking of is I feel like a good representation of like dreams in a video game. I'm sure it happens in a lot of games, but the first ones that come to my mind are in Max Payne, where he goes through this weird dream sequence, and it kind of sucks to play because it's a pain, but it's all sorts of weird, and like they go through this whole trippy thing. He's kind of in mostly like black space. He's like following a trail of blood and everything. It's weird, and you can definitely tell it's like a dream thing. There's also the whole topic of Bloodborne, but that's again a whole other thing. And I also wanted to mention like Spec Ops: The Line, because that deals with another thing, but it's been talked about. There are other places to find it.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually played it.
Yeah. So great examples of seeing like psychology and mind science portrayed in in everything, a lot of things that you see, and it's it makes you think. But yeah,
About thinking.
about thinking. Whoa, slow down.
That's too much thinking. Inception thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
But that does it for this week's episode of Nerd Variety. I think next week is Hannah.
It's me. We're gonna do our
Important.
avatar character tier list.
Okay.
Gonna
cool.
be a more of a visual component. It'll be a good time.
I'll try to
ready.
watch a lot of Avatar.
I'm ready.
Do it.
Well, that's it for this week. Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye.
Bye, Nerd Variety. Wait, we're Nerd Variety. Bye, nerds.
Nerds.